So meditation helps at multiple levels. So the verse that we saw is, okay, uh, chapter 5, verse 27 and 28. Right? Is that what we were using? Yeah, okay. So it says, Sparshan krutvan bahirbahyam chakshurshchaivantare bhuvoh prana panau samau krutva nasyabhyantaracharinav yatendriyamano buddhihi mudirmoksha parayanaha vigatecha bhayakrodha yasada mukta eva saha. Okay. So what we saw is, the first step of meditation here is Sparshan Krutvan Bahir Bahyan. Okay. So Bahir Bahyan Sparshan. What is Bahyan Sparshan? Bahyan Sparshans mean something which are external to you, Bahyan, which is external, okay, but it touches you, Sparshan. Okay. So what is it? The entire external world, it is external, but how does it touch you?
By your touch.
Through your emotions.
Exactly, right? So that means what it says is, the world is external. You are born with a world which is already outside you, okay? But what happens is, what? Sparshan, it touches you and you carry it within you, okay? And especially, which part do you carry within you? Something that bothers you, you carry much more with you than something that pleases you. Okay? So that means the external world is carried inside, okay? And that is something what you just, many times when we hear our thought process or we look at our thought process, most of the time what it is kind of a little bit in a circular fashion. We keep on cribbing about something that we are dissatisfied about.
Correct.
So the meditation says, keeping external objects external. Okay? This is a huge thing because we carry it with us, and not only carry it in a positive, in a kind of a self-enhancing way, it what puts us, weighs us down. So this is first thing you do in meditation, and you actually tell yourself that right now, next 15 minutes, I'm going to spend with myself. Not in relation to any one person or any given thing or any given situation, just with myself, and enjoy what? Being with myself. Okay? Familiarize my true nature, familiarize myself with that invariable presence. This is what I'm going to do. So this is what it says, that this is a time which is meant for you to familiarize yourself with yourself, keeping everything else outside. Okay? Now how do you keep everything outside? It's not it's one thing is you can say, yeah, you keep it outside. Nobody wants to carry all the burden, but what happens? We end up carrying all the things, right? So now it has to tell you how to keep the external world external. Otherwise it becomes an advice that nobody can follow because we don't know how to keep it out. Okay? So the first thing to keep it out is relax yourself. So what here he says is Chakshur Chaivantare Brumoho. There is one process through which you can somehow bring the scattered, ever-changing mind to one pointedness, and that is what? In between two eyes, there is this Ruvaha here, and you just visualize yourself and look here, and that way, all of a sudden, you know, the whole mind will just kind of focus at one point. Okay? Now that is one representation of, there is another technique which also many people follow, and that is, you know, like inner screening of different parts of the body. So that is somewhere where you internally visualize each part of your body, and you will find that many times the tensions that you are carrying, okay, which are mental tensions, they actually get translated into what? Physical stress, physical pain. So what you do is you look at each part of the body and you relax, and any part that you find that it is tense, you actually look through that part and breathe in and breathe out through that part, it really, you will see that the whole thing, the muscles physically start relaxing. Okay, so this is the first step to relaxation. After that, it says prana panau samau krutva. So that means your breathing is also very much connected to your mind. Okay, so just by observing your breathing, what happens is any irregularity, anytime you are stressed, what happens? Your breathing becomes irregular, right? Fast. It becomes very shallow. By just observing your breathing, it naturally gains a certain profundity. And when it naturally gains a certain profundity, what happens? It becomes deeper, okay? And your mind naturally quietens down. You go to any stress management, even in the US or wherever, all the doctors, medical doctors, they will ask you for this, for stress management. Just watching your breathing is one of the very effective. Immediately it will calm you down. Okay, so that is the process. Samau krutva nasya abhyantara charino. So yeah, it's hot. So that.
She felt hot.
Sorry.
My aim is that I don't say.
Yeah.
It is. But now I am able to. I am surprised. How many classes now? I think we won the finally once.
That is yeah.
आवाज आ
fast.
रही है
हाँ नहीं मने पंखा वाला powerful teaching.
Then what it says is, after calming the mind, it is the time, he says, yatendriya mano buddhihi munir moksha parayanaha. Okay? One of the most important thing is to bring a certain calmness to your whole thinking process. And this is what he says, there are three things here: indriya, mano and buddhi. Indriya is the sense organs through which you perceive the external world. Okay. Now, anything that you perceive through your sense organs, where does it get reported? In the mind. Okay, which is here called manas. Okay. Now, what happens is different situations occur, and the mind, after having gathered the information, it responds, and it has according to the external situation, it will have a response. So if there is something which is going to, a wedding of someone, or birth of a child, or any birthday or anniversary, it immediately gives you some kind of a pleasure, right? Now, if in case something, you didn't do well in something, or your job, your boss is aggressive, or whatever, so what happens? When you're dealing with him or whatever, what happens? You're little irritated. So it's something which is absolutely natural and healthy, because the mind receives the data and it feels certain things. This is something that you cannot avoid. If you're spiritual, it doesn't mean that mind will always be like a stable thing and it will totally be indifferent to whatever external situation is, it will always remain the same. That doesn't happen. No psychologist, I think a psychiatrist or nobody will actually say that you have to be sane. Nobody, then you will be a stone. Okay? So here, this is what we say is the mind. Okay? It will, according to the situation, it will feel a sensation, a given emotion. Okay? Now what happens is, generally, whenever that emotion occurs, if it is strong, then what happens? All your responses are governed by that emotion. So that means that emotion totally takes over and decides what your response is going to be. So here he says, yata mana indriya buddhi. Okay? So here it is making you see that you have one more aspect of mind, which is what we call buddhi. What is that buddhi? Buddhi is an intellect. It is a place which is also all the decisions are made. Okay? So now, if your buddhi is not well cultivated, what happens? When the emotion arises, the emotion dictates what is going to happen. But if your buddhi is cultivated, then what? you still have a choice as to what you do with that emotion. Whether you act on that emotion or you don't act on that emotion. So you can always do what? You may do something, you may not do anything, or you can always do things differently. That choice is available to buddhi. Okay? So the more and more, what is wisdom? What is maturity? It is cultivating your buddhi in a way that what? You make the decision. You are more and more deliberate in your choices, less and less mechanical, right? Based on the reactions.
Instinctive.
Yeah.
But here is one my question. Your emotions could be positive,
Yes.
causing you happy,
Yes.
or negative.
Yes.
Now it's right to, cultivate a habit where your negative emotions are taken care of, or you are able to work with them. But what about when you are too scientific? You stop feeling that happiness also.
That see, what you are saying is very, very true. What here we are saying is that the mind is a seat of emotion. Anybody who tries to what we call control the mind and not to have emotion is not the sign of wisdom.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that means that it is very healthy to have emotions. To think that objectivity, when we use objectivity, right, people think objectivity means only using your intellect. Okay? What we say is objectivity is using your intellect and also using your emotions, right?
So feel
Because-
happy.
Yeah.
What's wrong?
Absolutely. In this world, you need emotions. Okay? Without emotions, everybody needs love, everybody needs care, everybody needs the feeling of closeness, joy, happiness. All this is something which is absolutely required.
I mean, it
Okay?
nurtures you, right?
It nurtures you, and that is something which is very nourishing. So we don't want to label emotions as something which interferes with our exactly, or to put them aside. What we are learning in Vedanta is sometimes your love, okay, that you have for somebody, it crosses a limit and it becomes what? Control. The more you love the person, okay, excess love is good. There is nothing wrong as such with really loving somebody. Okay, what happens is when you really love somebody, and if it is not put in perspective, then what happens is a distortion arises. That distortion is the more you love the person, the more you want that person to be exactly as you want that person to be. Okay? So now, once that distortion arises, what happens? All kinds of expectation. Okay? Then you want to control the other person, and then when the person does not behave according to your wishes, then what? You are disappointed, you project on that person. So this is where the whole problem starts happening. And I have seen again and again, like I think Indians on one hand, they really look after the children, and that is lovely. That's a lovely part, that they actually devote their whole life. Their whole life becomes their kids. Okay? But on the other hand, over and over, how much pressure they put on the children. What an agenda they have on their children, because everything is invested on the children, and then they want the children to be this and that and this and that, and the kids grow up feeling totally,
Claustrophobic.
yeah, absolutely. So this is where is the line? Okay, how can I learn to show this emotion, retain the healthy aspect, okay, and take care of the distortion? This is really living life fully. We are not talking about absence of emotions, okay? Because absence of, in fact, there are some people, they have studied Bhagavad Gita and they think that Sthita Prajna is somebody who is indifferent to everything, and regardless of what happens in life, the person is exactly the same. We are not talking about that.
Otherwise, you will become mechanical.
Then what will happen is people become like, I've seen people like that, they become detached. Okay, that means they stop expressing their feeling. Yesterday I was invited to give a talk on Gayatri Mantra, and I went and I think that some of these people, they come from this kind of spiritual background, they've studied Gita, and I was telling them that, hey, show your love and all that, and she raised her hand at the end of the talk and she said that because of all these conditioning, she says, I have not been showing love to my kids. I don't really, I'm not hugging them so much or verbally expressing my love and all that. I said, you will destroy your kids, because as it is, every human being somewhere deep inside feels lack of love. With all the love that the parents have, you still feel that, everything is, all your needs were not satisfied. Okay? Now, imagine in the name of Gita, whatever love that you were showing, even that you stopped showing.
And she must be going to some agony of control.
Exactly. Right? So that means you create so many distortions, and then I said, no, you please start expressing both physically and verbally all the love. The only thing is that you have to take care of the distortion, because if you don't show emotions appropriately, then that will lead to disaster. Even with reference to what we consider so-called negative emotions. Okay? Generally what happens is that if you're with somebody, whether it's your boss or it is your spouse or it is your family or your friend, when somebody does something that you don't like, okay, we generally tend to not say anything, right? Because we think that if I say something unnecessarily, it will flare up and there will be a conflict and all that. So we keep quiet. Okay? Now when you keep quiet, okay, and if you really have to, if that person you don't see very often, then it's okay, you don't care. Okay? But if you really have to interact with that person on a regular basis, okay, you keep quiet the first time, you keep quiet for the second time, and then what happens is that you are boiling inside. Right? Then one day you will burst. Nobody can but burst. Right? So therefore, by avoiding what we think that we are avoiding confrontation, actually what we are doing is we are escalating it, right? We are multiplying it, right? Because we think that by not addressing a problem, it will disappear. No problem disappears when you don't address it. Okay? You have to learn to talk about certain things that displease you, okay, without accusing others. So there is this whole skill of what we call non-violent communication, where you express, right, what you feel, what you think very clearly, okay, and at the same time, what?
without being aggressive.
Without hurting.
So can we say we manage our emotions?
This whole thing is management of emotions.
Because after certain age, you are clear to what is going to trigger you also.
Yes.
Like you know.
Yes.
In fact, it happens every day. We just had a rickshaw fight that side. So it's like we know it's small things.
Small things, exactly.
We manage.
So you manage. Okay. So at times, exactly, because sometimes, for example, simple things, right? That your maid and your driver and simple things, right? So either we don't say anything, and one day what? We are like, aisa karta hai, this and that. So you just, at that given point in time, you have to say, and you have to say it quietly, okay, and you have to just make that person understand, and then it is done, it's finished. Okay? And this is what we call, and any non-violent communication starts with what? The first step is you don't accuse. You don't say, you are like this, you are like that, you are like that. You don't start accusing. You talk about your own feelings. You start saying, I'm feeling hurt. Because when you tell somebody that you are whatever,
You are hurting me.
you are hurting me, then what? You are accusing the other person. There may be not much truth in it, because if the person did not have the intention of hurting you, then you are attributing to that person something that is really
May not be right.
But if you say, I felt hurt, there is 100% truth in it. Because what you feel is a fact, right? You know about it. So this is where you start a non-violent communication. You are less accusing and you are more factual. You tell about what you think, what you feel. You give an opportunity to the other person to what? Clarify. You listen to that person, what that person's standpoint is. Okay? If you have further questions, you can ask further questions. See, that also we don't have much, we don't pursue conversation. Ho gaya, ho gaya, ho gaya. Right? It's not. You can carry forward. If you are still not very clear, you say, yeah, but why then did you do this? Right? You have all the right in the world to ask for clarifications. But be open and listen to what the person is saying. Okay? So this is how, in any conversation, Surya has a very nice slide, we do this interpersonal relationship. There are two aspects. One is advocacy and the other one is inquiry. Okay? There are some people who only listen and listen and listen and they don't reveal enough about what they are thinking. There are others who only keep on talking about what they want to say, they hardly listen to what other person has to say. Okay? We have one extreme or the other. What is required for a good communication is both. You need to listen to what others say, but you also have to state what you think and why you think what you think, and substantiate with articulate your feelings, the reasons for that. Don't think that every person will understand what you think and how they'll figure it all out. Nobody can figure you out unless you make it very explicit. Okay? So this is all what we call cultivation of buddhi. Buddhi is what? A place where emotions get managed. Communication skills develop to take care of both what? Healthy, what we call emotions of love, care, and also the displeasure. Also, you need to somehow find a way to communicate it in a constructive manner. Okay? So that whole process is that buddhi is cultivated at the time of meditation. The more you recognize, the more you revisit your life, okay, and see what are this, the bhaya, krodha, this is something that a lot of pent up emotions that we have, mostly they belong to two categories. One is bhaya, fears, and the second is krodha. Krodha is anger. Okay? So we never have actually processed whatever is lying inside. So this is why there is a trigger and it just comes out. Okay? The more and more you begin to see, there are, as I think last time we were saying about writing or whatever, there are two major, I think she can give a talk on that. There are two major things. One is, certain childhood memories which hold you, and that, gets, what the psychologists say is that imagine that in childhood, you see a behavior, for example, of your father, let's say, not being very kind to your mother, right? Putting her down or whatever. As a child, you cannot stand it because you have a clear buddhi and you can actually see it, and you can see, okay, my dad is really being mean to my mom. You can see it. Okay? Then what happens is, over the years, when you become an adult, you behave like your dad, which as a child you recognized was the wrong behavior. Okay? So that means you learn wrong behaviors. Because why does that happen? A child, when intuitively it knows that the father is doing something wrong. That is a natural, that is the universe telling the child, giving the capacity to distinguish between what is right and what is wrong. Okay? But in the vision of the child, the father is infallible. My father cannot be wrong. Right? So then the child comes up with some arguments to justify the father's behavior, because the child cannot handle the fact that my father is really, very unreasonable. Okay? So that means over the period, you acquire all the wrong reasons, okay, which then leads you, you've justified all of that, which leads you to behave like that in the long run. My God.
I mean, that's what is almost all oppressive
Yes.
marriages
Yes.
have children
The background.
also. The
Background is that. Okay, so this is where then as an adult you will continue to do that until what? You begin to inquire and you begin to realize what's happening. Okay? When you realize this is what is happening, what I understood, you have to relearn the whole thing. You have to say, oh my God, my father, no matter how much I love him, he was misguided. You have to admit.
Yes.
So somewhere by admitting that,
Yeah.
you are also accepting yourself, right? That you can
Excellent.
also be good and bad. Good bad means
Yes.
I mean
Yeah, you are
Yes.
also imperfect.
yeah.
Yes, that is true. And what you can then say is that because of this background, now I have a tendency to behave like this, but I also have this buddhi. This is what that cultivating the buddhi is, right? I need not be governed by what? The learned behavior of the past. I can use my buddhi to do things differently
And we
from
stop
now on.
proving, right?
Right. So that means from now on, I use my free will not to fall into the same pattern again.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
Yeah. So this is where the whole inner work takes place. Unless that inner work takes place, Vedanta is, people say, yeah, this wholeness and all. There is a big gap between where your psychology is and where that vision is. You have to become what? More and more mature to live and own up to that vision. Okay? So that process, a lot of it is done through meditation. Okay? So you take care of your fears, you take care of your, or at times you cannot always also find the root cause or anything. You have a given feeling. There is another approach which is what we call the cognitive psychology. Right? You today only I have a morning class and somebody was telling that when you have, let's say, some feeling which is not very self-enhancing feeling, so you, without denying it, you just say, okay, now this is a feeling I have, what are the assumptions that I have? The minute you start looking into the assumptions, you will find yourself that many of these assumptions are invalid, or many things have not even happened and you have assumed that it will happen, and what?
We have built
You
on
act based on as though it has happened. Okay, I'll just give you a very, very, when we talk about relativity of dharma, I gave an example, okay, about this very typical, this example of a Jewish person hiding in your home, okay, and Nazi police is looking for him and comes and asks you, right, whether there is somebody hiding in your place. So generally that is an example we show to say that every time you can't just stick to just speaking the truth, you have to assess the situation. Sometimes a different response is required. In this case, that person said something and she says, yeah, but what if, right, that this Nazi police, you feel that he will find out anyway, okay, and if he finds out, he will not only kill that person but also punish you and maybe kill you and your children. Then what will you do? Okay. So that I said, now you are creating a scenario, right, where it has not even happened. And then you are saying that not only he will find it out, but he will also what? Not only kill him, kill me, my son and my daughter, and therefore I might as well what? Then is making a decision on the worst possible scenario, taking it as a reality and then making decision based on that. there are assumptions which are taken as realities. Okay? And then we have no confidence in the working of the universe. This is where this Ishvara, as the very basis of the universe, it gives you confidence in the fairness of the universe. Otherwise, you're working in a dumb universe. The universe, if you think is all dumb, that means there is no real justice. Then all the possible worst scenario you imagine, you think that this is going to happen and you make your decisions based on that. So bringing Ishvara in your life, seeing that whole big intelligence which governs everything, which is here and now, it's working now in form of all these laws, which are constantly at work. They are in fact infallible. That changes the very the very psyche, and then you say, whatever I do, right, in order to protect that cannot get totally unrewarded. The universe is not like that, because these are very deep assumptions that you have about the nature of the universe. So therefore, you reprogram. That reprogramming your understanding of what is the nature of the universe, right, and what is your actions and what are your assumptions, all that takes time, because it's a very intricate process. Okay? Meditation gives you an opportunity to look through all these processes and then what? Correct. Because the whole thing is you have a buddhi. Right? Wherever you find distortion, what do? First thing is you can say, okay, now there is an order because of which I have certain experiences because of which this distortion exists. So you don't enter into some guilt. You have to free yourself from the guilt also. Okay? Otherwise, what we keep on loading ourselves, oh, I'm no good, that is
Atmashlabha.
Yeah. You keep on, self-depreciating, self-blaming. And that also you have to release yourself. How will you release? You will have to just understand that these behaviors that I have acquired, they have some reasons. Okay? So there is a cause and effect relationship. But there is no reason why I should continue to behave according to these traits. I can change. Okay? Both ways you have to see the order. If you do only one and not the other, it is not complete. Otherwise you'll keep on then saying, oh poor me, I have had this past and therefore I'm like this and I'm like this, and you'll perpetuate. Okay? Or if you don't, if you just want to use your buddhi and don't accept who you, then you will be still loaded with a lot of guilt. People suffer from tremendous guilt. So you have to heal yourself for that too. Both ways you need the understanding of presence of Ishvara. Okay? Ishvara in form of psychological order, which makes your emotions what they are right now. Ishvara in form of order of dharma, which gives you the free will to act and do things differently. Both. You have to evoke both. Okay? And then do what is necessary to reprogram and learn how to have appropriate responses in situations. Okay? So the meditation is that process that you spend with yourself, look into yourself, and that reprogram and slowly and quietly get rid of. There are two major problems that people have. It says, Kimaham, there is the Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, which says, Kimaham sadhu na akaramam, kimaham papam akaramam iti. Why did I not do something which I should have done? And why did I do something which I should not have done? Okay. This is what we call guilt, with reference to my behavior. And with reference to others' behavior, hurt. Why did this person do this to me? And why did this person not do this for me when I so much needed it? Guilt and hurt is something which is so deep deep rooted in the human psyche. You have to give yourself. And meditation is the time that you use to heal yourself. Okay? And it's just actually it's a very easy cognitive process. The most problem is we try to bypass. We don't look into it because it is discomfort. Just as talking about my discomfort, my displeasure with somebody, I want to avoid, right? Because I feel it will what? Lead to some kind of a conflict. Sitting with myself and looking into my own thing is not comfortable. So constantly you find what? Some distraction or the other, where you don't have to sit with yourself and just come to know. And what you come to know is what? Sometimes you are really good, right? And you are very kind and you are very compassionate, very responsible, right? And at times what? You're not. Exactly. That is a fact.
Just to share, I mean, it
Yeah.
just came to me.
Yes.
I go to temple regularly. Monday I go here, I go. So, but I always used to tell everybody proudly, I don't ask God anything. I go there, I pray. I love the rituals. I like Otika and all that. But after coming here and learning the cause and effect, and then now I'm going to temple, I realized okay, unconsciously somewhere there was an expectation. Coming in and not asking, so God knows everything, so I will get. But once I got this cause and effect, now I really enjoy it. I sit there and I get the vibration because everybody is coming with there's a faith. People are coming, so I'm enjoying the vibration. There's no stress. I'm having a relationship actually.
Wow.
I can relax.
Wow.
So I just realized that. I really enjoyed last 2 times. So it's that what you said. Once you sit and you think, okay, what is it? Like why? Then once you get the answer, there's so much freedom.
Exactly. The whole issue is, something will keep on bothering you till you what? You address it.
Yeah.
The minute you address it,
You drop
what?
it, yeah.
It gets dropped.
Absolutely. It becomes so light.
You
Yeah,
become
the
so light.
expectation is not there. I'm going so that things will. I'm going because I enjoy going there, and there is a positivity. As you said, Ishvara is like perfection. So you're going and you're just basking in that. That gives you positivity to handle whatever you have to handle. So
See, yeah, relating to Ishvara, somebody was asking me this this time when we went to Coimbatore. There is a psychiatrist who's a doctor. He came. And he runs a very big mental, this is what, psychological institute.
Center for Mental Health.
Yeah, Center for Mental Health, and he's helping many, many people. So he said, I came to Gita, and in my mind I had this question that what does Gita give, which is not covered by psychology, right? So that was it. And he says, at the end of the retreat, it got very clearly answered. And he says that what Vedanta or Gita gives, which psychology doesn't give, the first thing is Ishvara. Okay? The presence
The
of
universal.
Ishvara. Yeah, that there is a divinity which it pervades everything. That is not there in psychology. Not at all. Right? So that gives you that basic trust in the universe.
And kind of a faith.
That you
Or
in
surrender.
your understanding of Ishvara you can let go, right? Because that is, as you said, that the universe follows cause and effect relationship. Nobody is here to persecute you,
yeah.
right? That feeling of I'm a victim, the world is unfair, all these sentences, right, that I feel persecuted, these all will disappear if you bring what? Ishvara's, the understanding of Ishvara as what? The cause and effect which pervades everything.
No, it's
So
not as if I've
things-
stopped saying this. But now when I say, I know the falsity of it.
Yeah.
The power doesn't come. So you can't use it.
Yeah.
So,
Right? So that is the first thing that psychology doesn't have. The second thing he said the psychology doesn't have is this very big vision about who you are. Okay. So two things he says which are so fundamental and
Profound.
so profound, psychology is lacking. He says now that demarcation, what I understand, is so clear. So this is when he says, now when I consult, I will continue to use my background of psychology, okay, but this will be in the background,
At the back.
at the back. And I will find ways to incorporate it as the situation demands. That is wonderful.
Psychology
Really,
only talks about I, me, ego, subconscious mind. You know,
Yes.
everything is what is there within.
that little individual and then
Absolutely.
yeah.
I think it drops the I know.
Yes.
I feel. Then there is, then you can search.
Yes.
When I operate from I know, there is no scope.
Okay, so now this is the, when you perform this meditation, what exactly, the next verse, chapter 6, verse 14, it says, Prashantatma vikatadhihi brahmachari vrate sthitaha manasayamya machittaha yukta asita matparaha. What is actually the result of this meditation practices is given here. One thing which is, I love this Prashantatma. Prashanta means pleasing. You're cheerful. Okay? This spiritual person as a serious person. Somebody told us, this lady from Dubai, and she was, somebody was saying that I never thought that I would laugh so much in the Vedanta retreat. Because somehow our understanding of anything spiritual means what?
Serious.
Serious. Right? It's all like, the person becomes very serious and very stiff and very, and what is actually spirituality when it takes away the burden? What happens? You become naturally light and cheerful. Okay? You can enjoy life a lot more than anybody else. People think, oh, I'll stop enjoying life if I become spiritual.
That's
This
not
is
perception. Because
This is-
most spiritual gurus
Yes.
are those kind.
Yeah, they give you all the rules. Don't do this and do this and don't do
You know,
this. It's just
simple things
full of-
like wearing your clothes,
Yes.
not wearing
Cover your head. That got me out of many places. But doing duty also helps. Because though I was against all, I was irritated, I attended with my grandmother. Because she could not go alone, 9:30 ula pravachan, I had to go with her. So I still, because doing my duty, I got to learn a lot.
Yeah, so that got you some punya, which got you to the right
No,
place.
absolutely.
Yeah.
This Ishvara concept is so. I got it as a child that nature is Ishvara. I don't know how, it has always helped me. So now also I got such a perfect view coming to your house.
Yeah. So that means this whole thing that you will not enjoy life, that you have to be very serious, and all these things are not at all. What is his words? Prashantatma means you become light and cheerful. Because the more you let go the burdens, right? What happens? You're just,
your
And
normal natural
when
self.
you are light, all the creativity, all the talents that you have, what you can express much more. Okay? So that means, and then that also gives you what? A lot of satisfaction. So that means you become a person who's proactive, enthusiastic, cheerful. This is what he envisages as a spiritual person. Okay? Prashantatma, and your fears and all these things are what? More or less taken care of. You learn to manage your fears. Now even within the fear, you have to understand that there are two different types of fears. One is what we call instinctual fears. So that means, let's say if an animal is coming, we went to the forest. Okay? Our retreat was in a forest, and now you have these wild boars. They are huge, they are like really big, and at night they come out looking for food. Okay? So that means you can't then say, oh, everything is one, everything is Ishvara. You have to protect yourself, right? So this is something which is an instinct. Your senses report something and you have to what? Flee. You have to protect yourself. This fear is something which is very, it's an Ishvara's design to protect yourself. Don't try to resist that fear.
This is the answer to these things happening, this molestation. That is also one of the biggest answer. Because all the victims, if you ask, they will later tell you that something told them. They didn't
listen to it.
Gita can solve this such a big issue.
Gita can solve this big issue, that please don't listen to that.
Yeah.
There is a natural, intelligent mechanism which gives you these signals, right? Most of the time we ignore them.
Yeah. Especially women.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Because men are like trained, no? Men are supposed to be the hunters. So the instincts are sharp. I think so. I don't know.
So that is something which is required and it is healthy and Ishvara has given. Don't try to eliminate that. Okay? There is another thing which is what we call psychological fears. Psychological fears are what? Your own whole big picture that you have. Yeah, absolutely. Many things which have not even happened. Okay? You just start thinking that it will happen and then what? You suffer from it. So that is what Gita is saying that needs to be taken care of by this whole process. Examine. The minute you begin to examine and see, hey, this is an assumption which is a wrong assumption, it will drop. All these pictures, subjectivity has no place once you have truth with you. And truth is very, very simple. All you need to do is to just ask, hey, is this right? And you yourself will realize the childishness of your own thought processes. Okay? So this is what he says, that person has taken care of that. Then brahmachari. What is brahmachari? This whole, in the literal meaning of brahmachari is brahmani charitum shilam yasya. Okay? The one who has one's commitment to Brahman. What is Brahman? The final reality of yourself, that is a brahmachari. Okay? But in order to get that, one has to have some amount of discipline in life. So brahmachari then, the common meaning became somebody who has certain mastery over senses. Okay? Because if your whole commitment to life is just sense pleasure, then what happens is, you want more and more and more and more, and then you get totally lost and you don't have time for anything else. Okay? So therefore, we are not saying don't. See, all this which is a very noble, very beautiful ideas, they become rules. And when they become rules, they become very rigid. Right? And then all kinds of, oh, you should not do this, and then, oh, this, the control, and you see, it's all like becoming something which is unhealthy. What we are saying is, if you want to think about some finer things in life, you need to have leisure. You need to have certain amount of mental leisure. Okay? You will only have mental leisure when your mind is not totally preoccupied with what? Getting this, getting that, getting this, getting this. This is something which is what we call that disposition, where you have a certain discipline. That is what we call brahmachari. I can have fun, but my whole life cannot only be fun, because that is it. Right? I have to find a bigger meaning, because in that bigger meaning is your real fulfillment.
But this entire brahmachari concept has been so distorted.
So distorted.
That,
absolutely.
all these candles which
Absolutely.
we hear are from that only. Then.
This is so true, because people think that the minute you go to spirituality, then you have to abstain from this and abstain from that, and they have all these desires which are unaddressed. Then what happens? one time those desires totally take over. And then what, all kinds of scandals happen. Okay. So this is where the whole thing is not at all to create all these artificial rules and then not to listen to your own needs and all. What we are saying is be aware of your needs, but your whole life cannot be just that's all.
Mental leisure means you mean imagination.
Huh?
Mental leisure means
Mental
imagination.
leisure, what I mean to say is that if your mind is totally preoccupied with I want to get this, I want to get this, I want this, then it doesn't have enough time to just say, okay, now let me think about something more fundamental.
Non-time bound probably, no time bound. You just free yourself.
You free yourself
Yeah.
and you free your mind when
So you can
any
focus on the
higher
real thing.
learning.
Yeah.
Any higher learning, somebody, it requires some mental
Absolutely.
leisure.
We are too task oriented. This too structured we try to be.
This is so true. In fact, all these, somebody was saying that in the civilizations earlier, the beautiful buildings and so much was built, right? The music, people were giving classical music, Indian classical music. The concert used to be how many hours?
Full night.
Yeah, 3 hours, 4 hours, and whatever. And now every artist you will see what? 1.5, 2 hours, the whole thing is over. Whether it is Zakir Hussain or it is whoever it is, right? The top performers. Because people don't have the patience to just sit and enjoy and listen. Even their warm up used to be 1 hour. And then they would get into the mood, and then they will start creating, and then they will really get into that thing of that, the peak of that creativity. Okay? So that is something that our whole day goes in. Okay, now we try to be very busy.
Yes.
Okay? So that means whole day you have something or the other to do. So you pack your day so much that you just don't have time to just enjoy things, simple things. So this is that kind
As I
of
say, doing nothing is not a waste of time.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah, doing nothing is not a waste of time.
There is a story that my teacher used to say about that. So what he said is that there was a government temple, okay, and everybody used to get some, each one used to get something or the other, like according to what they do. So the priest will get the salary, the sweepers will get that, whatever. And then there was one person who was just sitting, and he would get some food and he would get a little bit of. Then the government took over the temple, and so they were assessing how productive. So they gave everybody according to what they thought was their contribution to running the temple. And when it came to that person who was sitting simply, so they said, you are not contributing to anything, so we will not give you anything. Okay. So this person says, you think I'm not doing anything? He says, no, you are not doing anything, you are just simply sitting. He says, you come and you sit and simply sit. Then that guy, when he did that, he said, this is the most difficult thing to do. It's true. It's rice, yeah. So sometimes just that leisure is, and what we think is that the work means you have to be all worked up. You can have leisure and you can be working.
Yes.
Very efficient, working very hard, and at the same time that inner leisure. You're not stressed out. This inner thing like this, not required. Sometimes in the presence of a person who is agitated, you feel, oh my God, there is, they have all these. Once I had gone for dinner with somebody, and constantly there was like, so you feel, my God, this person is not just even able to just sit quietly or constantly, it's amazing what this civilization has done to us, So that leisure is required for any higher learning and higher inquiry. Okay? So this brahmachari is the one who is not constantly engaged in the world and so engaged that there is no time to think about something else. This is what is brahmachari. Okay. Then manasayamya mat chittaha mat yukta asita matparaha. So the mind is something which is now balanced because everything is taken care of, buddhi is cultivated, and one of the important aspects of relaxing the buddhi is mat asita matparaha, bringing in Ishvara. That is a basic relaxation. Okay? A wave, when it understands that I am not just one isolated being fighting with this whole big thing, but I am contained within this ocean. And every other wave is also contained within this ocean. This is not something which is a positive thinking or anything. It is reality. It is reality based. Okay? If you miss this reality, if the wave misses this reality, then what? He's constantly afraid of what? Going to the shore, becoming extinct, constantly afraid of others that he loves also in the process, constantly comparing itself with all the other waves and starts thinking, I'm so small, that is so big, and that whole way of looking at the world will not go until you have this, that relationship. In that total, you relax.
Definitely relaxed it is. So beautiful.
In that totality, you relax. This is Vedanta. It gives you such a deep connection. That deep connection that human being is searching for. That no other human being can satisfy. All our teacher used to say, anything that you feel, any lack or any inadequacy or anything that you feel that was not catered to, what you can unload it all in your awareness of Ishvara. Just relax. Mat chittaha mat paraha. That is a beginning of a transformed person. Basically a secure person. So, the next one I will see this time, we'll see, do it next time.
Yeah.
We can do one more.
Majority means.
No, it's
It's seven. So we stop. Okay. So the next one, I will just introduce, then we will do it next time. That one of the major problems that in fact what Arjuna had a problem of sadness. Okay? So now that is again a very fundamental human thing, fear, anger and all that we saw.
Vishadi.
But that vishad, but that sadness. Okay? Because so many, whenever you are sensitive, what? You care. And in your vision, what? So many people are suffering. And you are also suffering, right? And you are also suffering for others' suffering. So that means there is double.
Sorrow is double.
Yeah, your sorrow is double.
Yes.
How do you, right, learn to manage that sorrow? How? That is the next verse.
Gita is addressing this, that is the biggest thing.
So beautiful. Just beautiful.
I know.
Gita is beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It's very, this
First it
book,
is teaching you that how sensitive. First the sensitivity and then taking care of you and others.
But I love the example with the Jew and Nazi you gave.
Yeah.
So normally I think we are fluctuating between that, creating what is not happened, or like this wave ka example.
Ah.
you gave.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Fluctuating
really touched
between
me.
both.
Yeah.
Full life goes away doing that.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean that we get into that insecurity, which is what is killing us.
Exactly. Exactly.
It doesn't bring the best out of you.
Huh.
And you suffer.
Yeah, and you
You
suffer.
suffer.
Absolutely. Beautiful. એકવાર વેવ થઈને પણ આપણે જોયું કે જે આવીને અથડાવવાનું જ છે ત્યાં મારે મોટા રોક સાથે.
Yeah, it says that you are important.
Yeah, exactly.
Validates you.
Because there is
You are giving a
this
sad
emotion.
ના sad નહીં, but then that is what it is.
આપણે કરેલું જ છે એટલે અથડાવાનું છે.
હા.
That's what you cause and effect is that.
The cause and effect.
I am responsible, that's why it's happening to me.
But the wave also has a possibility of knowing first that connection with ocean, that there is one
Yeah.
ocean
Huh.
which is taking
That
care
is
of
what
all
is
these
touching
things.
me.
Right?
It's like Athadavanu, it's okay, fine,
Exactly.
get on
Yeah,
the time.
right.
But I am part
Part
of that
of that
ocean.
ocean.
That is what.
Yeah.
That feeling is giving,
Yeah.
is liberating
Is
you
liberating. From all the smallness.
from all
From
smallness.
smallness.
Say Vishaltama Jatara.
Exactly, Vishaltama Jatara. Exactly.
We are so smart, we can use anything as an excuse.
Yeah.
We live the life, I mean, at least I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, but see,
We are quite
why it is
manipulative.
not possible for us to stay in that Vishalta?
And we wouldn't
All the
have
time. I mean,
class.
because we have to keep on practicing.
This is why one has to, people think that
It's
yeah,
like
why do
food.
you exactly? Why do you eat every day? Listening
ના
to
એટલે આમાં
Gita.
શું છે કે this is also food.
Exactly.
Food for the
It is
soul.
food for the soul. And it is addressing the need of a soul at such a deep level, such a deep level.
Yeah, in fact, last 2 weeks we
Yeah.
didn't meet.
Yeah.
And there was that craving.
Yeah.
Really?
There was that craving. અને એમ થાય કે now the period shouldn't be longer than this. Because I myself went out and I wasn't here, and when I got that mail, that third there is class not happening, I was most happy. Because you all went to Delhi at that time, na?
This
Third,
is something that we
third.
said, that if you willingly wanting to go and learn, so there is some opening, there is,
There is always.
There's that
yeah.
readiness
Yeah.
to accept.
Thank you.
Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti